Welcome to Business Unmuted. This is our regular weekly programme looking at business and the economy. Thanks to our sponsor Virtue Motors, one of the UK's largest motor retailers, representing some of the world's best manufacturers of cars, vans and motorcycles. You can check out its website at virtuemotors.com. I'm Graham Robb and I've owned Recognition PR for nearly 35 years. We've got 75 clients in multiple sectors based across the UK who have between them a turnover of approximately £6 billion and employ around 30,000 staff. So we're at the front line of the business community and perfectly placed to discuss the economic climate. Now in the studio today we've got Aman Chahal, CEO at TaperedPlus based in Stockton in Teesside. It designs and applies flat roof and insulation solutions. Aman is an experienced director with more than 15 years experience in the sector. And Pamela Petty is also joining us in the studio. She's founder of Entreprenising, which is Entreprenising, we'll get the actual title right in a minute, which provides coaching, mentoring and business development support. She's a renowned Northeast businesswoman with more than 30 years experience. And down the line, we have serial entrepreneur and author and business fixer, Kevin Gaskell. He's got many successes under his belt, including transforming three iconic international brands, Porsche, BMW and Lamborghini. We're going to start with you, Kevin, because you're down the line. I tell you what, straight away, hold up your latest book. What's it called?
The book is called Catching Giants.
Great. You've got to look. That's a great airport read. I can imagine going through airport and buying that. What's it about?
It's about how we set the new world record 2 years ago for the fastest row across the Atlantic, but I've written it as an adventure story on one page. How do you turn a rowing boat over in the middle of the Atlantic and still survive? And on the other side of the page, how many lessons for business come out of it? 80 lessons for business out of how we planned it, how we structured it, how we built the team, and then ultimately how we set the new world record. That's what it's about.
Fantastic. Now, I know you own businesses all around the world. You have stakes in business all around the world, quite a few in Britain as well. So I think you're perfectly placed to answer this question. What did you think of the government's measures last Friday that city traders and currency speculators panned? What did you think as an entrepreneur putting your own money into real businesses?
Well, I think some of the ideas that they came out with were positive. I think where it went wrong was in the selling, in telling the story. You know, you don't make significant change anywhere in any environment and drop it on people's laps and not expect there to be a reaction. And I think where they went wrong was they were so keen to get this stuff out there that they didn't, frankly, communicate effectively with the city or with business leaders or with other people. And so it all became a fireworks display of critical comment, which was a shame.
Now, it strikes me that a lot of things happened all at once last week, which has left us in the position we're in. This is Wednesday the 28th. We're broadcasting this, and if you're watching a recording, it's midweek. So first we had last Thursday the rate rise from the Bank of England. People expected it to be 0.5%. People expected it to be 7.75, 0.75%. It came in at 0.5%, so that was below expectations. And the Fed in the US put their interest rates up even higher. So the bank wasn't very muscular with its interest rate rise. Then we had the Treasury and Kwasi Kwarteng stimulating the economy with the energy price cap and the national insurance cuts and the tax cuts. And then we had on Tuesday night, we had the International Monetary Fund critical of the tax cuts and critical of untargeted energy support, and all of that resulted in the pound falling and the Bank of England going and having to spend taxpayers' money buying up the government's debt. So do you think that's an unfortunate series of events, or is it something that could have been avoided?
Well, if you're asking me again, it comes back to the communication, because you've got a complete mix-up between fiscal policy and monetary policy, and it looks as if the government are frankly competing with the Bank of England, which just leads to a loss of confidence, and therefore markets react, and markets will react. And of course, there's no point in the government saying it's not fair that traders will short the currency. Of course they do. That's what they do for a living. Just expect. There's no surprise there. That was going to happen. So I get very frustrated when people think that some kind of package of measures, which is quite a complex package of measures and has very big impact on the economy as a whole, is delivered within an hour and they think it's all going to be smooth and comfortable and we're going to move forward. Of course it wasn't. But that's why I think the communication was poor.
Okay, well, let's look at the measures themselves. We know what the bank is doing. It's going to end up with more interest rates to tighten the money supply, but the government still wants growth. And it's stimulating growth by giving people a little bit more money in their pocket so that they can invest, particularly entrepreneurs, with high rate tax cuts. What did you make of the headline grabbing tax cut first, the 45 pence being abolished for 40 pence?
I thought it's the right thing to do. It becomes a very emotive subject that people who get paid a lot of money get a lower tax rate. But hang on, we're all paying 40% if we're in that band. And when you've got the top 1% of taxpayers paying almost 30% of the tax take of the country, let's not pretend that these people are not still paying a huge amount of tax, because they are. If we can give a little bit of respite, then I do anticipate, certainly in my case, I'll be investing my funds into my businesses, because my businesses need to survive right now. I've got 7 companies that employ a lot of people. We need to make sure those businesses are still there and those jobs are still there. So my focus at the moment is to get through the next 6 and 12 months in a way that we come out stronger and not weaker.
That's absolutely music to my ears, Kevin. We don't often have people on TV defending the cut in the additional rate. I would defend it on the same basis. My cut in the additional rate on my personal income tax is going straight into my business. We're going to put solar panels on the roof. And I talked this week to 10 people who pay 45 pence in the pound and asked them what they would do with the surplus as a result of the tax cut. One person said they'd go on holiday, which doesn't really help the economy at all. One person said they'd buy a car, which could help if it was a British-made car. One person said they'd save it, which sort of helps because it gets invested. But the other 7 said they'd do what I'm going to do, invest in their buildings, and that was a quick injection of money into the economy, as far as I could see.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're buying a car, well, you've got about a 12 to 14 month wait at the minute for many new models.
Well, the tax cut doesn't come in yet, but
take your point. Growth and spending.
Well, look, Kevin, we'll come back to you in a moment. Pamela, what did you make of the ambition to grow the economy by rejecting orthodox policy where you had to pay debts back? What's your view on that?
I think it's a bold move. I think it's been the media have attacked it significantly, and I think that's kind of whooped people up, for want of a better word, against the 45% cut, which I'm also in favour of, because I think people will invest it, like we've said, and the government are also helping people with the energy caps and things like that as well. So the government do seem to be recognising that we've got to support everybody across the country, but also that the main thing that we do is build a stronger economy, and so that we can afford to pay back the debt that we've built up. We've got the pandemic to pay for still, haven't we? So I think that to invest in business is the right thing to do, and your short survey shows that that's what people are likely to do.
There were a lot of non-headlines that came into this statement. One of them is a definite pledge to maintain and enhance the EIS and CDIS funding. Now, you work with smaller businesses. How important is that to you, Pamela? And Kevin, I'll put the same question to you.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I've used that scheme to invest in some businesses, and the businesses that I work with, it's vital to them to actually to encourage people to invest in their businesses, because once, I work with quite a few startups, and once they've maxed out the credit cards, then they've got to go a little bit more serious and look for cash to get the business up to that next stage. So that is vital, I think, for companies to grow. And we don't want an economy of one-man businesses and huge sort of multinational businesses. We need those small to medium enterprises in the middle, and the bigger firms that actually invest and are stronger and are there for the long term as well. Not just there for themselves, but there for the long term and leaving a legacy of employed people that can earn money and look after themselves.
Kevin, what do you make of what Pamela's just said? Do you use EIS yourself?
Yeah, I absolutely do, and we use it to raise money in our new companies. I've started 15 businesses, I think, now, and I was at 2 of them yesterday, and they were both started with EIS funding from individuals, people like you and me who work, putting their own money into a business, and in combination, they're about 5 years old now, those companies. And in combination, the valuation of those businesses right now is about £500 million.
Wow.
So we've built 2 great companies which employ today collectively about 500 people. And I don't think we'd have raised the money if there wasn't an incentive to individuals to invest in those businesses. I think these tax efficient schemes are critically important.
I've invested in EIS schemes as well, but remind our viewers, what is the catch? Not the catch, I suppose you have to keep it money in, but what's the incentive? What is the tax bait?
Well, the incentive is that you can claim back the tax on the amount that you put in. So you put in £100,000, you can claim back 40,000 from the government against that. So it saves you some money, and fundamentally, if you're prepared to invest in equity and put your whole capital at risk for at least a period of 3 years, then the gains that you make normally are tax-free.
Yeah, and
so
that's a fundamentally good thing.
People to don't put your savings in the bank, put them into a company. And this is the bit people forget. It's completely at risk. You could lose everything. I've lost everything in a couple of businesses.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Yeah, I have as well. Future Energy, I remember that one. One of the first energy firms to go bust. But there we are. Look, that's very helpful because it does remind us that the government and the Bank of England, for that matter, does have to have an economy that is buoyant enough for people to invest and has an incentive for them to. And I think, Kevin, probably, Pamela, you might agree with me that the word incentive is sadly lost from a lot of the commentary that I've seen over the last weekend.
Yeah, I think, incentive starts to make people think you're giving stuff away. It's actually an encouragement. It's an encouragement to invest. We've gone through Brexit. Brexit happened. If this country is going to be successful on a long-term basis, we have to build small and medium enterprise. We have to build small companies. 90% of people in this country are employed in small businesses. Everybody thinks they're in big companies. They're not. They're employed by small companies. And if we don't have an active and an energetic growth in small businesses, we will not have jobs for people. So let's not be envious of people who are investing in small companies to create jobs.
Quite right.
We should be saying thank you to them.
Well, let's talk to someone who's done just that, Aman Chahal from TaperedPlus. Now, Aman, you're based in northeast England, so you're actually helping levelling up the area because you actually have a business. How many people do you employ?
We've got 22 now, Graham.
22. Mm-hmm. Now, before we talk about the products you have, what did you make of the employer's NI cut? Because it wasn't just about personal tax, was it? Employers got an NI cut.
It was. I think unprecedented times call for unprecedented action. So reducing NI puts more money in our team's pocket, puts more money in the company's pocket, will stimulate where we need to go. I think it was a bold move, but I think it's a move which will pay dividends. And as soon as people start seeing that little bit extra in their pay slip, I think that's when the positivity starts to come through.
I must point out to people watching, I didn't design this panel for people to agree, but you do seem to agree that the thing was right.
I do.
Kevin said it was wrongly communicated, and I couldn't agree. Being in PR and so I don't disagree with you on that, and particularly the lateness at which ministers have gone out to defend it on the media as well, but that's another matter. So let's talk about your business for a moment then. We'll flash a bit of the website on while we're talking. What's this innovative product that you actually sell to people in the property sector?
Yeah, so essentially, Graham, we're a specialist building products company. We design and supply tapered insulation schemes for flat roof commercial buildings. So you get water drainage plus thermal performance. So 2 for the price of 1 essentially.
So we're sitting in a building now that has a flat roof. It's a modern building, so maybe we wouldn't need your product. But particularly if you had a refurb, what kind of building would it work for?
Yeah, the refurb sector is a big growing sector for us. Any building pre 86 tends to have a zero falls roof, so it needs to be thermally upgraded plus water drainage. Only 1 to 2% of UK carbon emissions come from new buildings, so to achieve what we need to achieve in terms of thermal performance, refurbishment is definitely a massive growing market.
I have noticed that unlike my house, I mean, the building we're in now is built in 2007. My house is very old, but if you had a modern house built after the year 2000, there would be a certain insulation factor in the roof, wouldn't there? And it does appear to me that in the office that I own, the heat rises and goes out through the roof very quickly. It doesn't appear to have the same level of roof insulation.
No, 30% of all heat loss goes via the roof, so it's the first point of refurbishment for any serious carbon reductions.
So your product goes on top of the flat roof.
It does.
It has a little bit of tapering, so the flat roof drains.
It does.
But and what kind of insulation factor does it provide then?
If you look at U values, which is the thermal performance of the roof, that's improved significantly over the last 10 years. In refurbishment, it's gone from 50 mil when I started out in the industry to now it's around about 140. So it's had a significant impact, and it's only going to go one way.
Can you retrofit things on top of it? If you had a flat roof with your product on, could you then put solar panels on top of your product?
You can, Graham. That's where you get the 2 for 1. So you get the thermal performance of the roof, you get a new substrate, preferably non-combustible as well. Plus you get the thermal effect of the solar panels, which creates energy. So you've got a passive strategy as well as a proactive strategy, so it works perfectly in both sense.
And tell us a little bit about the performance of the business recently, from when you established it to current day.
Yeah, so myself and my business partner Rob Vass, we set up around about 7-8 years ago. We took our parents' ISAs and threw it into the business and thought we'll give this a go. We've been growing 20-30% year on year, and we should be around the 8-figure mark this year.
Wow.
For the first time. So it's a milestone for us as a company, and a testament to the team behind us as well.
Excellent. Now, you're watching down the line, Kevin. That's a Northeast success story here in Stockton. It is just down the road from our studio. 22 people who've got jobs that wouldn't have if he didn't get stuck in. He's the kind of person, I suppose, that you were talking about when you were talking about rewarding people who take and risk everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I am all for rewarding entrepreneurs, because the entrepreneurs are the people who will, exactly as we just heard, start a business and build a business. And if you build a business and provide jobs, you're giving back a huge amount to the economy. So I'm absolutely in favour of rewarding entrepreneurs. And I'm less in favour of rewarding people in big banks who are frankly doing the job they're paid to do, but that's a different story.
Absolutely. Pamela?
I was just going to say that I think entrepreneurs usually aren't motivated by money, actually. They're actually motivated by a passion for a product or to improve something. So they do tend to, I'm sure you've got a nice lifestyle, and quite rightly entrepreneurs should have when they've got a successful business, but they do tend to put back into the business. And so then it isn't just them that benefit, there's lots of other people that benefit, and ultimately the government, because the taxes and everything else. So entrepreneurs are that very unique breed, I think, that should be celebrated and encouraged as much as we can, because they'll definitely make the economy stronger.
And what do you make of the chaos that's being reflected in the media at the moment, Aman, about the mini budget and so on? Is it something that affects your day-to-day life, or is it just froth?
I think it's just froth, Graham. That's a great word for it. It's noise. Sometimes you've just got to put your blinkers on and think, what actually affects me in my business? What can I control and what's uncontrollable? The fact is, when there's chaos, there's opportunity. So I think every entrepreneur, every business, if they look for the opportunity, there's growth there.
One of my great clients, I've worked with him for years, and he was one of my early clients, Duncan Ballantyne. And I started working for him in the 1992 recession, which was quite deep, the early 90s recession. And I asked him, what do you think of these high interest rates? And boy, those interest rates are high compared to now. And he said, a business person that complains about interest rates is like a sailor complaining about the weather. You've just got to get on with it. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Kevin.
Absolutely. I mean, I always say, stop looking at the problems and look where it creates opportunities. As just said, where are those opportunities? Because turbulence creates opportunities, and there's no point in moaning about what's going on in the market. You've got to react to it, or better, frankly, preempt it and adapt your business accordingly. And I've been running businesses a long time, And we've gone through the 14% interest rate of the early 90s. I've gone through situations where we were importing product and overnight the currency changed against us by a factor of almost 100%. But we were still there. But what we had to do was look at ourselves about how we would react. So stop moaning about it. Let's get on and let's build a great business. That's my motto. Let's get on with it.
Well, Kevin, that's a great point to leave it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Aman, and thank you also to Pamela Petty. By the way, if you're watching this and you're watching on LinkedIn, where we do live broadcasts, or you're watching on our other platforms, do join the North East and Yorkshire Business Group on LinkedIn. We've got nearly 14,000 members. You get updates on that. And if you're listening on podcasts, make sure to like and subscribe. Catch you again soon for another edition of Business Unmuted.